Welcome to Blind Shovel, an arts and music podcast. Today I sit down with fine artist and tattoo artist, Rememburgerme. I hope you enjoy. It is. Well, thank you for being patient.
Oh, yeah. I'm chilling, dude. I'm chilling.
Where are you again? You're like you're chilling in some state that isn't New York, right?
That's right. I'm in Alabama at the moment.
Are you from Alabama?
I'm from Alabama, yeah.
What's that like? Never been there.
I mean, it's cool. I don't know. It's hard to... I mean, it's a unique state to some degree, but I mean, I'm from Birmingham, and I think in a lot of ways, Birmingham is like other cities of the same size. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like, there's not a whole lot that's like particularly, I guess, like different about it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah.
Most cities are pretty much the same thing unless they're like grotesquely large.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly. Like, you know, there's like New York and Chicago and LA and I don't know. Like, I was talking to someone recently who's from like Albuquerque, and we were like, oh yeah, it's basically like, it's like that, you know? Yeah. And it's like, and there were all these similarities, and we were kind of like, yeah, I can kind of imagine what it was like growing up there too. Like, so
yeah.
You know, it's pretty normal. It's a normal place. I mean, there's a lot of rural areas, but there are a lot of rural areas in other states too, you know. I think people like to stereotype Alabama as this extremely rural place, but it's not dissimilar from other states. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
And did you grow up there most of the time?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here, I was born in Ohio, in Toledo, and then moved here when I was like 5. And I was here for like 26 years, and then I moved to Brooklyn.
At 31.
Yeah, about 31, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was quick.
Did you just realize, did you just realize that, I mean, why'd you move? Was it like a decision career-wise that you were like, if I want to do these tattoos, I should move there? Or were you not doing the tattoos at the time?
I wasn't tattooing at the time. I knew I kind of wanted to, sort of, but it wasn't even really a plan. It was just kind of a thing where I had some friends who had moved up to New York over the years prior, and so kind of like my core friend group growing up in Birmingham had sort of moved away, or was like, you know, person by person moving. And, I don't know. I was like, yeah, I think I want to, you know, I knew I wanted to leave Birmingham because I just didn't really want to, I felt a little bit like I had passed my prime with it or something, you know? So I was like, I got to go do something else. And, New York seemed like a good option because I had some artist friends that lived up there. And then like, yeah, some of my like core friends lived up there too. So that's kind of why. And, yeah, so it's been cool.
Yeah, no, I can definitely tell that. I don't know how to put this. Like, I do tend to find artists who aren't just stereotypically doing the thing more interesting. And by that, I mean people who animate, who didn't go to school for animation, or tattoo artists who aren't in that particular lane of like traditional tattoos. So it makes sense to me that you weren't. Like, when did you start tattooing seriously?
Yeah, I mean, basically, like the first year I was in Brooklyn. So it probably took me, I moved up there in November of 2021 and then started, like, I did my first tattoo on somebody else that wasn't me in like April of 2022. So within like 6 months, I was like starting to tattoo some other people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't really want to do it in Birmingham. It was like, I didn't really, for the longest time, I didn't know that you could just do tattoos. Like, you could just do whatever you wanted, you know?
Yeah. I think there's like I know a bunch of people who were doing maybe more of a fine art or comics or zine thing. And then I think they realized,
oh yeah,
okay, you can actually make money doing
right.
And pretty quickly. I don't know if that's your experience, but
it is.
What's going on here? Why is this plausible?
It's like it's a pipeline. it's
yeah.
It's a true pipeline. It's like I don't really know. I just kind of hopped on it, you know. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, obviously, I'm not like a tattoo historian or something, but you know, like,
well, you seem like you're a guy who draws on people more than a tattoo artist, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like you're not, for me, that's something I think about with tattoos. Like, I don't think there's a distinction for me. Either it's a good drawing on someone's skin, or it's a good drawing on a piece of paper, but it being on someone's body doesn't make it a good drawing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, kinda. I mean, I agree. I agree with what you're saying.
Like, I guess it's interesting to me that I guess there's like context, right? If someone really knows how to draw around the shape of a body and tattoo well, that's like a specific skill set. But there seems to be more and more tattoo artists that feel like they're just drawing in a sketchbook on a person, which I think looks cool. But I'm kind of curious, like, what's the difference? Like, for you, is there any particular meaning to tattooing, or was it just that pipeline that made sense?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think is there any particular meaning to tattooing? I mean, for me, not really. I mean, I kind of approached it in a way where it's like, I liked to collect like art, you know, and it was sort of like, oh, well, I like this art enough to collect it on myself, you know? I mean, there were all, you know, I think a lot of artists and people who just draw all the time, like, probably draw on themselves a little bit too, you know? So it just kind of made sense, I guess. But yeah, there are a lot of like kind of sensibilities that you hear from like more traditional tattoo artists about, you know, composition with the body and stuff like that. And you're right. I think there is kind of, with more illustrative tattooers or more kind of like DIY tattooers, that there's not as much consideration for that a lot of the time it's sort of a drawing and it just kind of can go anywhere. You know, I think the more that people get into tattooing, obviously those considerations start to like surface. Like they definitely did for me. Cause at first it was like, well, I don't know. Like, what does anyone want this as a tattoo? You know, it was kind of just like,
well, yeah. How did that actually start? I'm kind of curious because like, it's this weird, I mean, I think part of the podcast for me is showing younger artists that you can do pretty ridiculous things for money. And
yeah,
and it isn't always like well thought out. Like, it's not like people are sitting down and saying, okay, at this age, I'm going to start doing this. But I am kind of curious how it goes from, you know, I see that you've done like books with Cold Cube and you've done different things, fine art, ceramics, but is it like you just draw a flash sheet one day and you put it on Instagram and then people are like, I want that? Or is it more complex than that? Is it that simple?
Well, I can only really tell you from my experience. I think I don't know, you know, what everyone else has experience with it. They really have, because everybody has different trajectories, I guess. But for me, it was, I had drawn stuff that people have. Like, have you drawn stuff that people have gotten tattooed? Like,
yes.
Okay. So you like, have people reached out to you and they're like, hey, will you draw me a flash sheet? Have people done that?
No, you know, I got more like, I see this drawing that I already like. Can I put it on my body? And then I've had people reach out for custom stuff, and I would be like, yeah, sure, like $300, and they were just like appalled. And I was like, well, all right, like that's like really not much to ask, I don't think, for a custom thing. But
no,
I do think when you're in like the more comics world, like $300 sounds like $30,000. So
totally.
I don't know. I don't have tattoos, so I also, at some point in my life, I was talking to some guy at a party in San Diego, and I was like talking about how I didn't have tattoos, but I was also considering it because it did seem like a thing you could actually do for money. And he was such an asshole about the idea that like you need to have tattoos to give people tattoos. And I thought that was kind of a funny, it's like the opposite of a good drug dealer, Like
That's so true. You shouldn't be partaking in the drugs if you're trying to sell them to people.
Yeah, but this is like you need to enter into the pain and the.
It's true. So
you're on his side.
I will admit, I texted my friend about this the other day where I was like, dude, this is a bit of a trad pill take, but I don't. I was being mean too. Because this is my friend that is also a tattooer, and often I'll send him my more hot takes. But this is more of a hot take, I guess, and that I don't really. I do think I don't know. For me, I don't have as much respect for tattooers who don't have a lot of tattoos. And
does it come in a matter of degrees? Do you need a ton of do you need empirically more of your body covered to be respected?
No. I don't think there's any degrees, but I think the threshold for me is like maybe 5.
Okay.
Like you need 5. At least.
Okay. What about one on the face? One on the face should cover.
One of them has to be on the face.
I'm saying if you just have one on the face, you should be good, I think.
Oh, true. Right. Yeah. I mean, the one could cover all 5. Yeah. If it's somewhere really intense like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a bit of a hot take, and I don't have a good reason for it, really. I'm not like,
you don't need to have a reason.
I don't even really know how to explain it. It's just kind of this thing where it's like, I don't know. You just should, like you should do it. I don't know.
When did you get your first tattoo?
So I was actually pretty late to the game. It took me till I was 27 to get my first tattoo.
And did it have meaning? Because I feel like there's this trajectory that can happen where like the first tattoo is taken seriously, and then there's just this like fucking domino effect of like, oh, that looks cool. Let me just throw that up there.
Yeah, no, I never had any meaning to the tattoos I wanted to get.
Gotcha.
The first one I got was like this, it was like a vintage style trad tattoo. Oh, I say vintage because it's from this like vintage tattoo book or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's like old Americana traditional stuff, but it's like this weird, goofy gravedigger guy. With like one tooth and like this like candle with a face, and like he's like, I don't know. It's cool. It's a cool tattoo. Yeah. So that was my first one, and I was just like, oh, this looks sick. Like I want to get this, and that's kind of how it went from there. It was just like, oh, this is cool, and I was getting stuff from my buddy in Birmingham who had just finished an apprenticeship first, and then I started getting some other stuff from another guy in Birmingham that I'd known forever, and I was just taking designs to him at that point because I was like, oh, I'm interested in a little bit like weirder stuff, so I was kind of like picking designs from like this label called ASL Singles Club, and I was just like, it's a lot of like really cool black and white graphics. They're kind of like a house label type thing, and especially if they weren't like sourced from anywhere or didn't have like an artist like associated with them, I'd kind of just be like, all right, will you tattoo this on me? And he was like, yeah, sure. So that's kind of the stuff I was getting, and then I started going up to New York and getting stuff from artists I liked, and that's around like 2018 I started to realize that was like a thing you could do, Like, I didn't really know that you could go to like artists that were tattooers. I kind of just had this weird thing. Like, I think it's the idea that most people have that are sort of like not on Instagram, I guess, like in the sort of underground, like comics and illustration and tattoo communities. Like, people just think of tattooing. They're like, oh, tattoo's done, you know? Like,
yeah,
oh,
like they facilitate, trying to think of, not of a like, I don't know. I didn't walk around thinking of tattoo artists as artists because there's such a rigid language often associated with it. Obviously they're almost like more like musicians. Like, they're just like technicians reenacting the classics in some way and doing it very well often. And then there's that whole, I don't know. I've had a couple friends who were doing really just kind of similar stuff. And then right around the same time you're mentioning, they just realized, oh, wow, I'm in Brooklyn and I can do this. And it's still like a little bizarre to me. And I can't even believe how much work they have. Like, it's pretty crazy.
What do you mean, how much work they have?
Like humans who want to, like, maybe because I tattoos, I forget this, but just I'm pretty impressed by like the endless amount of appointments, and also I'm impressed by being able to take, I guess, pretty niche comics languages, and which typically make you like no money, and actually having a kind of a career. Yeah. But without changing anything, like without really having to compromise how they're drawing or what they're drawing. It's just very interesting to me because there's so many comic artists who make really amazing work in large quantities, but since it's in a book or a zine or whatever, like I don't know, they're making like hundreds of dollars off of like selling out 50 to 100 copies of something.
Right, dude.
And then there's this shift where, like, if it's just on the body, it's like this dramatically different economy. And I think that's like just really interesting to me because, again, those prior tattoo artists I imagine or knew in high school, like, their trajectory is so different. And again, very much, I think, traditional in a certain sense.
Totally, man. I think, what you're saying is, it's absolutely true. And it's weird and hard to grasp for me too. Like, I don't really know what it is. And it was something that I would kind of like, cynically joke about before I started tattooing, like that, like all I had to do was like start tattooing and then I would like be like a popular and successful artist, you know what I mean? And then like, I don't know, but it's fucking weird and true. Like, people, there's something weirdly, it's crazy how much work you can put into, because comics are something that I don't even, like, I've always struggled with, like I've like wanted to get into, but I've had such a hard time, like making anything that I, of value, I think. And it's fucking hard, dude. It's like a lot of work. And it's this really intense, like nuanced craft, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like kind of inaccessible to some degree. Maybe it's just the fact that like people are like generally self-centered and are like maybe not self-centered, but self-interested or something, like.
Absolutely.
And, like that want to fit in and be cool and are willing to spend money on that, than kind of more internal pursuits, No,
I think there's definitely something about, I think you usually end up finding a good market when you, I guess, flatter the buyer or like make them feel special. And a lot of art pursuits are pretty definitely self-centered, even from the artist perspective, where like, you're sitting in a room drawing comics and doing so without much market concern. It's not surprising why no one gives a shit when you put it out. Like, that's why would they, Like, you think of the average person, why would they care about an uncompromising thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've come to think of comics as just like a gym. You know, you go there to get better at drawing, but it's not going to make you a living. I mean, you can. There's great artists who do so, but for me, it's just like a place where it's just like a grueling test, a stress test kind of.
Oh, okay. That's a really interesting way to think about it. I like that.
Have you tried comics?
I've tried.
Like, fuck this.
Yeah, I mean, I just never really made anything that I liked, you know? Like, I've tried. I used to make some zines here and there back in the day, and, you know, I would try to go to zine fairs and sell them things, and, you know, I was like, well, this isn't working out.
Tell me about that trajectory. Like, are you drawing in high school? Are you drawing before that? What's the evolution? What is the pipeline?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I've been drawing forever. Like, as long as I think have been conscious or reasonably conscious or whatever, you know, like I just always enjoyed it. And you know, I mean, some early, I guess, stuff is like I would show up, you know, I would take the bus to school, and then I would sit in the library and read, like, you know, Far Side comics. And
of course,
I was like fucking obsessed with Gary Larson and shit, you know. So I was like, I basically modeled my entire like drawing personality after Gary Larson when I was like 12, you know, like I was like making single panel comics and trying, you know, it just looked, you know, it was like, it looked exactly like it. Anyways, so I always like drawing.
No, that's cool.
I've done it a long time.
Hold on. Did you actually understand Gary Larson's like humor? Because I was looking at one maybe 2 days ago, and I mean they're kind of fascinating because I don't know what the hell he's talking about half of them to this day. I thought it was because I was like young and stupid, but I actually don't get some of them at all, which is kind of cool. I think
I would have to look back because it's been a long time since I've really like in like truly investigated his like comics, you know. I think at the time I felt like I understood them, you know. I think I thought they were genuinely like absurd and funny, and I think maybe even if I didn't get them, maybe that made them funnier or something.
Yeah, I think that he is kind of a true artist, and I don't know how that man managed to take the world by storm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So much respect to him.
Most definitely, man. Yeah, Gary Larson was like, he was like the guy, you know, people would ask like, if you could have dinner with one person, living or dead, you know, like Gary Larson was my guy.
I got to get on the pod.
Dude, yeah, get him on, dude. Get him on here.
All right, so you're into Gary Larson.
Yeah. I was really into Gary Larson. I'm trying to think about what happened next in a succinct way. I don't know. Yeah, I've always been drawing. I think I found out about like paper rad and stuff when I was like 16 or something, and I got really into like the unicorns around then, so I was into like Nick Thorburns art and stuff.
Wait, hold on, it cut out for a sec. Go back to Gary Larson for me.
Okay, Gary Larson.
I missed some I missed some important information. You just remind me of the unicorns, but yeah, go back. Let's go post Larson.
Immediately post Larson. Yeah, so I was just trying to think of what else I got into when I was younger, you know. I don't know why. I'm just trying to like lay out
No, that's what I want.
A timeline, a clear timeline without getting too in the weeds, you know what I mean?
Sure, so it was Larson to...
I don't know who, you know, directly after, but I'm thinking about, you know, what kind of like contemporary stuff that I started to get into around. I was probably like 16. I was saying I kind of found out about Paper Rad, I think around 2006 or something, you know, like Ben Jones and
that's the revelation of of like you can draw shitty. That's kind of like how I encountered some of that stuff. Like, oh, you can kind of draw. I don't know how you were drawing before because Gary Larson isn't exactly Michelangelo, but I think all the picture box stuff made me realize you could draw quote unquote shitty. You know, like you could kind of
Well, I just realized
that.
I don't know. It just was like cool, you know, to me at the time. It was like, oh, this is like actually fucking sick. You know, it's like, this is cool stuff. And I wanted to make cool stuff. And I really kind of emulated, I think, Nick Thorburn's drawings at the time. I was 16 or 17. The singer of not the singer, but, you know, one of the main guys in the Unicorns. I think he does. A great band. Yeah, I loved the Unicorns, man.
I have no idea what happened after. Like, they had, was it one album, maybe two? But
I think they had one main release that was like "Who Will Cut Our Hair When We're Gone," and they also, but they had a bunch of other music because they had an album before that just was like kind of a weird, more of an EP thing, just a poorly recorded kind of thing. Like, I was into the Unicorns to the extent that I was on this website called Secret Unicorns Forum, and I was like downloading MP3s of like all their old shit, like fucking voicemails that they would leave each other, you know, of songs and stuff. So I was like I was pretty deep into the Unicorns. I really liked that shit.
Okay, that's an interesting reference I haven't heard in so long, so it's really interesting to think about.
Yeah, and they're good musicians, man. I'm pretty, you know, I'll back them up. I'll back them up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's a pretty good comic artist too.
Yeah, I really liked Nick Thorburn's work. I think he was like, it was kind of referencing, I guess, like old, you know, I don't know what you call it, but like early animation style cartoons and stuff, like, and it was this kind of modern take on that, which I liked and I thought was cool at the time. So that was pretty influential. And then, I don't know, I was drawing, painting a bunch. Okay, what am I supposed to try to...
So it's like Larson, Unicorns, Paper Rad, so I assume you're looking at other picture box stuff as well, the publisher.
Oh, I don't know. Actually,
that would be like CF and that whole crew, like Fort Thunder people, Chippendale.
Yeah.
No, it's just interesting to me. There's like an archetype, like, I'm realizing I was on a similar trajectory.
You were into that too?
My whole family liked Gary Larson, so it was a little less individuated. I didn't even realize it was like a thing, right? Because everyone's like, this is just fucking, the chickens are restless. It's just like bathroom books, you know? But the big bathroom.
He was on a lot of cards and stuff too, you know? So
then I was like really into the Unicorns and Tim and Eric, and I realized that this was like there was some path there where like if you met a girl or something that liked that same thing, you could kind of immediately recognize each other. And then picture box from
that's crazy.
No, Unicorns embody some kind of energy that is comic-ish, and I mean the cover, I think for me as a shallow teenager, like the cover alone is enough when you see the rainbow bending and all that.
100%.
And then
beautiful cover.
Picture box is like a very formative thing, and like all these things kind of flow into a certain alternative comic style if you're a certain age. Like, I don't know, you're probably about my age. I'm 35.
Yeah, I'm 34. Yeah.
So like there's some
it tracks.
It's hard to, but what's the next, like after, because at least for me, honestly, after Picture Box, there was like disparate Tumblr influence and like random things here and there, but I guess as you get older, and at least in my instance, less cool, you're not really on like that track as much anymore. Like I feel like my influences are much more random now, but I also just look for less. I don't think there's as much like I'm not collecting as many nuts from the squirrel perspective at this point in my life. Like I don't really go to galleries or museums, and I'm happy to just process all of the oversaturation of the last 15 years of my life, you know?
Yeah, fair enough, dude. I don't really go out to like, I don't know. Maybe it's just a thing where you're just like the inspiration is less impactful when you get older, you know? It's like, it just doesn't hit as hard, you know? And you're like, okay, I can reasonably understand that, you know?
Right. Also, what are you going to do with it? I mean, from a utilitarian perspective,
right.
When you're younger, you're like, I want to kind of draw like this. And then at a certain point,
you know?
Right.
Like there's like the future is just so big and unknown, and you're just like, wow, like this is life changing, you know?
Yeah, I don't know why people romanticize that. I think it sucks. It's horrifying. It's like I prefer.
You prefer knowing.
Like, I just prefer, like, I guess in some ways, like the walls closing in, and it's like, oh, this is what I'm good at, and this is what I can like get better at, and then you meet people who are just better at you than other things, and you say, well, that person's like born to draw, I don't know, like Mobius or something, and I'm never going to draw like that. So let's move on. And I find that limiting aspect much more comforting, I think.
I mean, I can totally agree with that. Yeah. I think it's nice because you stop emulating things that aren't, you know, good. And to a certain extent, I don't know. I've definitely like, you know, emulated things, and I'm like, well, it's much better to actually be in a place where you feel, but I don't know, if you feel comfortable with the work that you make, then that's a good place to be. If not, then I don't know, you know. But I assume that you feel pretty reasonably.
Yeah, it's double-edged. It's double-edged.
Yeah. But
but I don't feel comfortable with that comfort, you know?
Okay.
I feel like suspicious of it. I'm like, is this like, I understand when you get in your 30s, there's a comfort that can occur. It could be both. And I don't know. I think I'm like slightly suspicious when a drawing just comes easy. I'm like,
Yeah.
That used to take a long time, and now it's just flowing. And like, that's a lack of wisdom, you know, but I also think there's something true. Like in my 20s, it was, how do I word this? Like, let's just say that your like psyche is split into master and servant, and the master was much harsher. He was very like cracking the whip in a different way than I feel now about
when you're in your 20s.
For me, yeah, like if this thing was good enough, you know, like there's this. Now I feel like a certain self-assurance where I don't need to crack the whip. I still produce a lot, but like it's like there's less desperation, and it's confusing if it's good or bad for the art. You know, I don't know. I'm willing to accept that. Yeah, go ahead. I'm rambling.
I was just gonna say I know what you mean, dude. I know what you mean. It's weird. It's a weird thing. I mean, I think about that a lot, actually. And I don't know how to articulate it. I'm not like, I don't even really have a good way to like respond, but I just know exactly what you're talking about, where it's like, it's hard to tell. It's like, I don't know, should I be pushing myself more? Like, or have I just naturally like gotten better? Like, or, you know what I mean? I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is it organically unfolding? Which I think if you put a lot of work in the beginning, it does, but I think it's a cycle where I think there's going to be a moment soon for me where it's like that master's cracking the whip again in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's weird when you start to make money or have different responsibilities. Like, you know, I never even thought about this from a tattooing perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's as much as are you thinking about how much the style needs to evolve in that context? Like how much of it is art and how much of it is commerce for you? If you could try to break that down. I know it's a hard question, but again, like I think there are certain tattoo artists, more traditional, where it's like it's just basically a job and a craft, but there probably isn't much concern about like innovating it in a fine art sense.
No, I don't think so. I mean, well, I agree with that, what you've said.
Can you imagine this, like doing tattoos for, like when you think about it from an adult perspective, are you like, I can do this for 30 years or does it feel like something that's going to disappear as quickly as it came in the sense of like,
that's a really good question.
It's a parental question. It's very parental.
I do. Yeah. It's, there's some consideration for the future. I definitely think about it. I could see it going away as quickly as it came. I mean, it is a very, what do they call it? Like unstable, like, but there's a better word for it.
Well, I mean, my feeling is like I don't know if there's going to be a trend in the opposite direction at some point where like people don't get tattoos, but it definitely seems like a thing.
Hate tattoos.
Definitely.
People start to really despise them.
Yeah, tattoo removal becomes a thing.
And then
DIY
get into using a laser. No, they started to open up. There's a shop in Brooklyn near my apartment that is it's a tattoo shop and a tattoo removal on the other side. So it's like a singular business, and
that's fun.
They do tattoos on the left side and then they remove them on the right side.
It's brilliant.
Like, yeah, yeah. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. Will you?
No, I won't.
I do. I'm afraid of the future. Like I mean, I'm 34. I started tattooing when I was about, started doing it full time when I was 32. So, I'm still feeling pretty new to it, and I just can't really picture myself. I don't know. Like it's almost kind of lame to be like 40 something and like doing like weird little drawings on people, on youngins, But
I do think that you're correct that there is, as much as people think age is just a number or whatever, it's absolutely not. It's like it's like a real thing, and
no,
and
I agree with you there.
Beyond just like physical deterioration and etc., there is a natural progression that, especially when you're in fields that are cool, like I almost feel like you have to be more extreme, like to even be accepted. Like if you were 50 and your entire body, including your face, was tattooed, maybe you could swing it. But there is like kind of it's almost like being an athlete, but they deteriorate physically. In the arts, I feel like there's like your coolness just, it gets hurt.
It grades over time, It really does not stick around. I mean, I don't think, I feel old all the time. There are a lot of very like talented tattooers in their early and mid 20s, and it just feels like a young person's game, like a lot of the time. And I'm like, damn, I don't feel like I'm, when I talk to them that there's anything weird happening. I'm not like, oh, geez, you're really immature. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like, these people are my peers and I really enjoy being around them and, all that. But there are moments when I'm like, wait, how old are you again? They're like 24. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. I'm like 10 years older than you. That's crazy. So I do, worry about, because I mean, I'm not doing like I think there's almost a difference too, where it's like if I were doing these really like beautiful like masterpieces on people. Not to say that my work isn't that now, but
of course.
No, I think of people like I can imagine in my mind. Like there are people that I follow that are like just masterful tattooers, you know, and I think like they've spent years and years like with that craft, and they've gotten really good, and their work is like very anatomical, and there's so much going on, and you know, they're in their 40s and 50s and stuff, and it's like that's a different kind of tattooer, you know.
It's true. Like if you have
Then like
what is that? What's that style? That is I don't know. It's almost like Sailor Jerry's, but like if you have that and you're like 60, that's fine. I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there's this dude like that's particular, like in particular, like I think like Japanese traditional or something like that, you know, or like,
True.
There's this dude Squid's Ink that like comes to mind that does these really massive like kind of like animal pieces that like work really well with the body, and they're just like, you know, the line work and the shading and everything is just really, really, really well executed, and it's beautiful. And like there's something passable about that. And then I think about myself and the kind of drawings I make, and I'm like, what's the age where this becomes like kind of weird that I'm like tattooing this on like 20-year-olds, you know?
It's true. Maybe it's like punk rock analogous, you know, where it's definitely embarrassing to make punk rock when you're 50, but you can play a violin till you're 90, and
oh, sure,
it's chill. So I guess there is like some of that aesthetic in there, and there's a lifestyle, I assume, as well. But I think what's interesting to me is I feel like we were very fortunate to grow up in an age where you could effectively just keep drawing and then wait for like careers to kind of like magnetize to you. You know, for me, like I just drew what I liked and then got some editorial illustration here and there, and then got some publishers here and there. And I didn't really need to deviate or plan much at that time. And I think that speaks to how quickly like this particular trend might come in and out, but you'll still be drawing the way you want. You know what I mean? Like you didn't set out to be that thing per se, like stylistically, like you weren't trained stylistically in that sense, but maybe we can just get by like that. I don't know, like where you just kind of draw your best and hope for the best, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's all I've really done, I think, you know? Yeah, I think that's I think that might be what it is, really. Because, I mean, I don't know. I say that stuff, and it's really just my own, like, fears and about, like, external, you know, the way people perceive me. And I don't know if it's really all that meaningful to think of it that way. Because I guess it comes back to, like, well, yeah, I mean, how did I get into this? You know, I mean, I basically have just been drawing what I like to draw for a long time. And I never really got, I don't know, I didn't know how to navigate getting illustration work, like, at all. Like, I never really understood that. I never, you know, I made some zines and stuff, and then I was just, like, drawing stuff and, like, posting online, and, you know, like, there were people who liked it and stuff, but I was working other jobs. Like, I wasn't doing really any kind of work before. I wasn't making any money doing any type of art stuff before I started tattooing, really. Like, people would hit me up and be like, hey, will you make a flash sheet? And I would charge them like $20, and I'd draw like a whole fucking sheet for them, you know, and like send it to them. And I just didn't really care. It wasn't like about the money, you know. I was like, all right, well, I'm doing other jobs, like, it's fine, you know. I just like enjoy drawing. It's like a good thing to just do more drawings, and it's like it meant so much to me that people would even ask to get some stuff and then go get it tattooed, you know.
Can you explain that to me? Like, all right, someone's like, can I get a flash sheet? Is that a person who then takes that sheet to another tattoo artist to do, at least in this context you're describing?
Yeah, I had a few people ask me to do that because they didn't really know what they wanted, I guess, but they were like, oh, well, you just, like, I was like, I don't know, you don't have to tell me what you want. I'll just draw you a bunch of random stuff, and then and then you can get whatever you want from it tattooed. Yeah. So
they bring it to some other person who does it.
Yeah.
So you just must have realized at a certain point, like, why am I not just doing it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was like, well, yeah, like I should just do it, you know?
Did you find the transition to using a tattoo gun difficult?
Yeah, somewhat. I won't say it's not. I mean, it wasn't like, I don't know. It wasn't that hard, but it was, it definitely is different. It's definitely different. And it takes I would say, it took me a long time to really realize like what I was doing. Because you don't know what, like a fresh tattoo looks so much different than a healed tattoo. And you don't know that at first, you think like, oh, it looks good. I put the lines in. It's like awesome, done. Like, and then like, I've gotten healed pictures back from like when I first started. I'm like, wow, that's so crazy how much, the lines like expand and blow out and stuff. And like, well, not necessarily blow out, but how much they just expand over time, even if you haven't really done anything egregiously wrong,
Right.
So there's a lot of weird kind of planning and stuff that goes into it, and just like, I don't know, it takes a long time to get used to. But using it isn't particularly difficult, and it's just, it's a different tool,
Are you
if
ever
you're making art, then you can kind of transfer the skills,
No, that makes sense. But are you ever like, do you feel bad about any tattoos, especially the early ones where you're like, that sucks?
Yeah.
It happens.
It happens.
I'm sure most people are very nice, right? They're not like, you fucking ruined my body.
Exactly. Yeah. That's because going into it, you just establish expectations, you set expectations really clearly with the person, or especially early on. I would have people come over and I'd be like, this is how it worked. And I think I'll kind of go back to what we were talking about, where it was like, how did you, so when I got to Brooklyn, I started practicing with the tattoo gun. I started getting, comfortable with it. I tattooed myself. I was tattooing fake skin and all this stuff. And then it was like, okay, like I really feel like I need to tattoo other people, I like need to, because tattooing yourself is weird. Like even if you're able to, like, you're comfortable with the machine and all this stuff, like there are these factors that kind of warp your ability to do the right thing. Like you're in pain from the tattoo, so that's one thing. And then I guess the other main thing is that you're like you're generally not at a particularly like advantageous, like, or workable angle, like when you're tattooing yourself. So it's just doesn't, it's not a great way to learn, it's good to kind of get a sense of like what actually happens when you put the needle to skin, and doing it on your skin is good rather than other people, like initially. But at a certain point, you're just like, wow, I really have to tattoo other people to like understand how this works. And so I put out feelers on my Instagram. I had been like kind of like sharing stories of like me practicing on fake skin, and there were tattooers that were kind of like reaching out to me and being like, yo, that's cool, and fucking giving me little tips and tricks and stuff. And so I had a lot of like kind of nice support from people in the community who had also taught themselves to tattoo. So that was really helpful. And then I kind of was like, hey, I'm going to start doing free tattoos, everyone. Like, does anybody want any? Obviously I live in like Brooklyn now, blah, blah, blah. And people hit me up. And then I was like, oh shit, like I need to make a form because I'm getting more inquiries than I expected. So I made a form, and I was working remotely. And so I was, working 9 to 5, and then I would have people come through at like 6 p.m. on the weekdays, and then I would tattoo on the weekends and stuff. And it was all just free tattoos. And I was kind of like, just every time someone would come through, I'd be like, all right, like this is like the 6th tattoo that I've done, like you understand that this may not be a good tattoo, and in fact, it's probably not going to be a good tattoo at all, right? And they're like, yeah, I know that, and I'm like, cool. And then we'd proceed to do the tattoo, and maybe they'd tip me, maybe they'd not, like whatever. But yeah, that was the experience. So that was like, I did a bunch of those, and I don't know how many, but I did enough to where I was like, okay, I feel reasonably comfortable enough to start charging a little bit for like materials and stuff, because it felt like a realistic thing to do. And then it kind of just went from there, I guess. But that is to say, yeah, I do feel bad about some of the tattoos I've done, for sure.
And to ask a stupid question, I assume that you are never freestyling on somebody. Like, you're not just like drawing.
No,
like you transfer a thing, right? And then you trace it.
Yeah, we always use a stencil, or I do. Yeah, I always use a stencil. I don't even really like free. I don't know what people call it, freehand freehand, like where you draw the stencil on the skin and then tattoo that. I don't even really like doing that. I like doing a stencil. I make a drawing beforehand and then make a stencil and then just tattoo that.
Gotcha. No, I'm kind of curious these different processes.
Yeah, like Ella. I have a studio mate named Ella who basically does freehand like all the time, where someone will come in, they'll be like, I saw you did this, and like they'll like maybe pull up an Instagram post or something and be like, I really liked this one, like, and I want to maybe get it on my leg, like on my thigh, maybe around my knee a little bit. And then she'll just get like her like Sharpies out and just draw the whole thing on on them, basically, just checking with them the whole time, like seeing if they like it, if they want to change things or whatever, and then she'll just tattoo it that day, and it's cool. It's a really, I don't like doing it. It's scary to me.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah, not my style, but it's cool. It makes for a really good experience, and I think people really, really, it's a type of artistry that you're just like, wow, that's really fucking unique,
Right.
Yeah, it's cool.
And so if people want to get a tattoo from you, how do they do that? How could they do that?
How could they? I have a booking form. So, if you want to get a tattoo, just hit my booking form.
And what is this shape world?
What is it?
Yeah,
what is this shape? It's hard to say.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not just a bunch of people getting tattoos in the same building?
It might be. It's a tattoo studio. And, it's, it's like a
looks
co-op.
cool. Looks
collective. Cool. Yeah. You seen it?
Oh, I'm looking at it right now.
Oh. On the internet?
Yeah.
Okay. Respect.
So you guys all hang out.
What are you seeing?
What am I seeing?
Yeah.
A bunch of tattoos.
Oh, respect.
I don't know what else I could be. What do we got here? You got Did you start this thing?
No. I just didn't know if you were seeing like images of the interior of the studio or not.
No, I don't. I would love to see that.
Oh.
But no, I'm not, though.
Okay. I didn't know if they were on the Instagram or not.
It's cool to see like these kind of different styles adjacent to yours. It's very interesting to see what's going on. Oh, there. I think I see it there. Yeah. Nice wood floor.
Oh, yeah. That must be the old space.
Yeah, I think it is actually 2022.
Yeah.
All right, so they go to Shape World.
Okay. Oh, you're asking me.
They get tattoos. I'm trying to get you work.
You're trying to get work from me?
Yeah. Is that
okay? That's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Or are you just booked?
Oh, am I booked?
I imagine you're pretty booked.
I'm doing okay.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I switched my schedule up to make it a little more, I don't know, to free up a few more days for me. So I'm like, right now I'm just tattooing Saturday, Sunday, Monday every week. And that gives me a lot of free time.
What if do people give you requests? I want a dog with a cowboy
requests?
on.
Yeah.
Oh, so you do that. So that's interesting. Yeah, because for me, that's basically illustration. Like they're just giving you a prompt
Sure.
and you draw off that.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of is. And it's, I got to tell you, it's not my favorite thing to do.
No, you charge more for it.
Yeah, you do.
That's
Charge
all.
a little bit more. Yeah. How do you like it? Do you like doing illustration? Like, I don't know, because that was always something I didn't really enjoy. Is people asking me to draw stuff and having to draw it.
I think I've come to like it in the sense of like I don't think they're the same practice. It's just like drawing for myself, but yeah, I do think that whole process is pretty interesting to me because when someone asks you something, they see something very specific in their own head, and obviously, like what you draw is not that thing. So there's this whole process of convincing someone and being charismatic about what you're presenting that I find kind of interesting. And also just trying to work within the limits of like a very specific prompt is an interesting skill set that honestly I think helped me mature as an actual human because I had to like consider a different person's request and be a little more of service than my normal practice of just like drawing in a room alone. So I value it for that reason that like I actually genuinely like when a client likes a thing and it's not like I'm dependent upon it or that when I go to sit down to make my own work that I feel like it's like I contaminated my integrity or something. I just think of them as pretty different and I do think the person should just pay more, and like if you don't like doing it, you just make it even more expensive. And then if they keep, like you just make it worth your time and it all shakes out, I feel. You know what I mean? And you also you tend to get better, I find, just like with the comics, but like when you're doing some shit you don't want to do. Like I feel like I've drawn a lot of things I never would have wanted to or thought to draw in ways that I found acceptable because other people needed me to do it. And in that sense, I think a lot of breakthroughs happen when you're doing commercial work or work for other people. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a really good, that's a really nice perspective and like really nice way to think about it. Cause I don't know. I tend to be more of like a baby about it,
Hey,
like,
just get away with it as long as you can, For me, I just there came a day where it just wasn't working,
Dude, I just whine about it like all the time. Like if someone asks, I don't know. Like if you, it's mostly to my girlfriend because we live together. So I'll, be like, ugh, I can't draw this fucking thing. It's supposed to be a bird, And I don't like the shape of the head of a bird,
Yeah.
I would get really mad about it. So, that happens sometimes.
No, I was just curious. I didn't know if I could imagine some tattooers are like, no, I'm not. Here's a flash sheet. I'm not doing anything custom.
Yeah,
so fucking what you do.
There are people who do that for sure. I will. I accept customs for sure. So like if people, I don't know, if people have an idea, I'm like, yeah, that seems cool. I'll do it. I'm not super. I think the only reason I don't do customs sometimes is if it's like too much. If it's like just doing something like somebody else's work, or or if I don't think like my drawing will really, or like my style will really like suit that kind of drawing or something,
Right. They're like, this is my relative who just died. Can you make a photorealistic drawing of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would accept that one. But I do try to tell people like where they can go. That would be like a good,
Yeah,
option.
of course.
I had someone kind of ask like about, doing like a subway station. And I was like, I don't think I really want to do that, but I could see it looking really good. And like this person could do a really good version of that or something.
Of course. Yeah. Well, I'd like, if there's one thing I'd like to see you draw, and that's something that feels like it's in the Far Side format, like just a square with that exact text on the bottom,
Yeah. I mean,
that's my hope. That's my hope down the line.
Okay. One day.
Same style you got going on, but somehow
in the Far Side format,
showing the Gary Larson,
post Larson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't need to do it. I'm just just like a very Larson's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I just really, I love that guy growing up. It was like the funniest it was so funny to me.
You can just feel his humility in there. You feel a man behind it.
It's true.
Just a guy.
Yeah, just probably has glasses, I actually don't know. I don't know what he looks like.
I was going to say, and he's like definitely not from a coast, and he's not. He's from Tacoma.
Okay.
Wait, but that is a coast. I guess technically that is a coast.
Where, in Washington
State?
Oh.
Nah, but that doesn't count. You can't count that.
I mean, if you're not on the coast,
Nah, he's not. Yeah, he's inland.
I feel like if I look up what Gary Larson...
You know exactly what he looks like. It's
okay, let me see.
Yeah, it's exactly who you think he is.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. Oh, because he did draw that one character that... I guess his people kind of look like him at times.
Yeah,
the guy with the glasses.
I would say that. I think they come through, for sure.
Deeply underrated. I like these kind of guys who could never be in a museum. Like, there's no way a museum could spin it where, like, they kind of... they push their territory out to his land. Like, there's just no way there's going to be, like, a MoMA or whatever, like a contemporary art museum with Gary Larson shit in it.
You don't think so?
I hope not. I don't really believe in museums that try to be cool.
Okay.
They should be lame.
I could kind of see it. I could see there being, like...
I hope not. I just hope not.
Okay, so what do you mean, though? You sound very...
What?
Anti-museum.
I think I generally believe the idea that, like, museums are mausoleums, which is an idea that's been said a lot. But, like, I believe in... I think museums should be for dead art. And there's something weird, I don't know, when they try to be cool and there's like, oh, there's a 30-year-old with a large exhibition next to a Da Vinci's or something. Like, I don't...
True.
I'm not interested in institutions commingling with, like, the actual foundational bedrock of the cool kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, I find that embarrassing. It reminds me of when parents try to be their kids' friends. I think it's fucked up. And I think, like, there's supposed to be an antagonism against those institutions from the artists. And they shouldn't be, like, kind of sucking up to them or trying to get degrees to be respected by them. They should be basically teenagering against those institutions. And then they die, and then the institutions co-opt them and then sell their, like, their work is worth a lot of money. But I think it's an unholy matrimony. Yeah.
So true.
It's just lame. It's just lame. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it feels wrong. That's uncool.
Yeah, like, I'm not all about that, but it's like the real capital C cool.
Right.
The Gary Larson cool.
Yes.
There's something really genuine about his work. But let's leave it there. If people want to get tattooed, there's a form on the website there.
Yeah.
And Shape World, they can hit you up. You'll send them a price back and a date.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works, dude. I mean, they hit up the form. They, just, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll answer DMs and stuff too, but I try to be nice about that, It's they're hard to keep track of, but, I do prefer the form.
But let's leave it there. If people want to get tattooed, there's a form on the website there. And Shape World, they can hit you up. You'll send them a price back and a date.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works, dude. I mean, they hit up the form. They, just, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll answer DMs and stuff too, but I try to be nice about that, It's they're hard to keep track of, but, I do prefer the form. If folks out there can do that.
All right, enjoy Alabama and have a good night.
Okay, nice talking to you, man. Have a good one.
Music by Dori Bavarsky and Mingja Chen. I don't know who's next. Let's see what happens. Enjoy your week.